This is on an RV store near Hamburg, New York. Hi, I'm Will Buchanan. I'm walking all the way across the country to New Hampshire in search of more freedom on a project called the Walk for Liberty. Today is November 15th, 2008, day 192. Recently I learned that New Hampshire superstar activist Lauren Canario was kidnapped by an agency calling itself the government and thrown into a cage for 30 days. As if that wasn't bad enough, just yesterday, Freeman, another fellow activist and host of the internationally syndicated talk radio show Free Talk Live, was also kidnapped by that agency and thrown into the cage they call jail for 93 days. Now you might be asking yourself at this point, why did that government use force against him in that manner? Well, they had called him into their court because of a chair that had been on the lawn of his private property. At some point, the government's boss man, they call a judge, entered the room. And then Ian was called and began talking. The government boss man judge ordered him to sit down, but Ian instead continued to talk. The boss man judge didn't like the fact that Ian had refused to obey him. So he pulled out his contempt of court card and ordered Ian to spend 30 days in their jail. The judge ordered their trial to be continued in a back room, which was then displayed on a small TV monitor. When it continued, the judge asked Ian more questions, and from my understanding, for the most part, Ian responded back with questions of his own, which were along the lines of, "What gives you authority over me?" The judge man did not like Ian's questions at all, and ended up pulling out 2 more contempt of court cards for an extra 60 days in their jail. I wonder how many of those cards he's issued by that government. Anyway, he finally gave Ian a go directly to jail for 93 days, do not pass go, do not collect $200 card. A few things strike me about their trial. Does that judge man think he's better than Ian? Would he think he's better than you? If you asked him that question point blank, he might fumble around or dodge the question. Or perhaps he would even say, "No, of course I'm not better." However, his actions beg to differ. He effectively gave Ian jail time for what amounted to the fact that he thought Ian was disrespecting him. It seems to me, though, that respect is something which should be earned, not demanded. And he certainly hasn't earned my respect, since he's merely an individual who orders force to be used on others. But whether or not he would admit to thinking that he's better than Ian, he would almost certainly say that he thinks he has authority over Ian. Actually, I take that back. He probably wouldn't say that he thinks he has authority over Ian. He would say definitively that he does have authority over Ian. And that authority is vested in me by the people of New Hampshire, blah, blah, blah. But where does that authority come from? Or a better question is, does he even have authority over other people who haven't consented to that authority? Can any person have authority over another who hasn't explicitly given him that authority? And what even is authority? According to dictionary.com, Authority is the right to control, command, or determine. But from where would such a right come? As I alluded to earlier, the judge man would probably claim that it came from the people of New Hampshire. I don't know in New Hampshire whether judges are elected or appointed. But whether they're elected by a majority of people who voted that day, or are appointed by someone who was elected by a majority of people who voted on that particular day, the judge would effectively be arguing that his authority is derived from a majority of people in New Hampshire. Well, at least some sort of majority of voters, that is. So the real question is, does a majority of people have authority over an individual? And is therefore able to grant that authority to someone else, like a judge man? So, would 2 people have authority over you? What about 5 or 10? At what point is a group of people large enough to have authority over you and therefore to control what you do? You might say, a majority of people. But why? What's so special about a majority? And if you do say a majority, then a majority of which people? What about a majority of people in the room that you're in? Or does it have to be a majority of people in some arbitrary, politically designated area? Or really, a majority of people who voted on a particular day within that area? The answer is, there is no group of people large enough to automatically have authority over you. A group is really just an imaginary concept. All a group is a collection of individuals. And no single individual or collection of individuals can have authority over you without you having given it to them. And I don't know about you, but I don't give authority over myself to anyone else. I am the only one who I give authority over myself. What about you? I walked 18.25 miles for Liberty today, and here are my GPS coordinates. If you support Ian and appreciate the work he's doing to fight for freedom in Keene, New Hampshire, and across the rest of the country, then consider visiting freekeene.com and making a donation. Again, that's freekeene.com. This is Will Buchanan, signing off. I've been seeing a lot of Ron Paul signs around the Buffalo area.